Mike, and Oscar.
And the Oscar goes to. And the Oscar goes to. And the Oscar goes to. Award season recaps weekly.
And the Oscar race checkpoint.
And we're back. Welcome once again to another episode of Mike, and Oscar. I am your co-host, Mike One. Co-host also Mike in a moment, and another Oscar race checkpoint because we have honest to goodness, real life, in-person, big film festivals to talk about, Michael.
Spike Lee is in that dapper pink suit with the limited Air Jordans in the French Riviera right now, getting the tribute that is worthy to him. Jodie Foster is getting special awards there, and yeah, they're premiering movies again to a live audience, and we're getting so many reactions, Mike, from friends of the show, from film Twitter at large. It's just been fun checking in every couple of hours, and we'll cover that right off the bat today with the Cannes Film Festival.
We are talking about the Cannes, or as I lovingly call it, the Cannes Film Festival, taking the disappointment, the monosyllabic disappointment.
The same joke, 5 years running. There it is again.
That is one of the topics today we will check in on during this pit stop along the awards season road here, Mike. So let's start off talking about Cannes here with some news. Yes, they did kick off the 74th International Cannes Film Festival last night as you are listening to this. No, that's last night. Last night, for real, right? Mm-hmm. Because you said something about listening to this later and it fucked me up. And now I got to restart the whole goddamn... No, hang on. Cannes did kick off their 74th International Film Festival last night, and after an opening ceremony celebrating, like you already said, Spike Lee and Jodie Foster, they did screen their opening night film, Annette, starring Adam Driver and Marianne Cotillard, which we have previewed a few times here.
Yeah, Adam Driver is now going down in history.
Really playing in the muff down there, yeah.
Because
the Cunnilingus Commando.
My God, man. That was the tweet storm last night when we were following this, like, early evening when everybody was, starting to tweet out their reviews, where the first impressions were this man will be the first to sing an original song in the midst of simulating oral sex in Annette.
The cunnilingus crooner himself, Adam Driver. There's such a fascination amongst film Twitter when a story having to do with oral sex pops up. Like, remember the Batman thing?
That was a big deal too. Yeah.
Like, what happens?
Not
we have better things
Batman.
to do, don't we?
Come on. What are we doing? That's a fun show. Have you watched any of that, the Harley Quinn show on HBO?
No, I have not. And I've seen like clips of it, but I never said. But yeah, it is a good show. But the story, yeah, Adam Driver's just singing while down under. That was a good way to put that by you.
Not once, but twice, according to Scott Feinberg, and that was the cool thing, Mike. A lot of our friends of the show are weighing in, so we get to follow them and retweet them and check in every 30 minutes, 40 minutes to what they're posting during the opening ceremony, etc. But Annette was confirmed 2 hours and 19 minutes long. Overall, the reception on Rotten Tomatoes is kind of, I don't know, 15 out of 17 fresh reviews, 88% Mike, 71 early Metascore. But from everybody's tweets and everything, it's like, this is mixed, this is polarizing. Yeah. I don't necessarily know if the numbers are shaking out that way yet. I'm guessing they'll eventually do so.
There was one tweet I saw that said it seems like Annette is pretty much liked with a couple loud detractors. I haven't seen many detractions myself, but like you, I mean, if everyone's saying it, there's got to be some kind of undercurrent of truth to it. From Scott Feinberg, he tweeted, Annette might be a little too wacky for the Academy, but he also says in his report on The Hollywood Reporter, Adam Driver and several Sparks original songs could potentially contend at the Oscars this year.
And that would be cool. Like, we're getting this movie in August, right? August 6th, I believe, or August 20th on Prime, August 6th in theaters. And we'll be able to review it soon enough for you guys. But it's a movie that you were very intrigued by, knowing Leo Carré, or however you say his name, Leos Carax, is smoking a cigarette during the 5-minute standing O.
5-minute standing ovation from Scott Feinberg. I'm so happy that timed Like nobody, I don't think I've ever heard. I've had three thoughts flood my head at once here. I've never heard anyone comment on the standing ovation clock and records other than us in this space. But I can't get enough of it. I miss those so much. I didn't realize how badly I missed those last year until Scott tweeted that, and I felt my soul be like, "Oh, finally, we're back."
If we were there, when we are there,
I would have stood up during the oral sex song. Yes, you're right.
if we really hate a movie, would you try and stop? Like, would you be the one saying no? Would you be the one voice like, nope, I'm not clapping.
Boo!
Boo this man! Like you do the Peter Griffin voice that you are heard no matter where you go with that voice.
Yeah,
in the background.
Well, my opinion's the right opinion. I need to make sure everyone knows that is all.
And if God forbid the ovation was not enough, you would be Orson Welles and Citizen Kane trying to keep it going, and you would be the loud heckler saying, "No, don't you sit back down," like the freaking Bo Burnham second to last song kind of thing.
It was a 5-minute standing ovation, except for one guy who was standing for 12 and a half minutes and physically assaulted his people near him. Yeah, that's how the report would
They
read.
have to drag you out because you won't stop clapping at a Cannes Film Festival. When we finally fit into a tuxedo again and get out there, you'll get tossed.
Because that's what's been holding us back all this time.
That's right. That's right. Some IndieWire coverage, again, has been great. Cannes Film Festival, as they put it, has been their Super Bowl. And I can't wait to hear the next IndieWire Screen Talk because Eric Cohn, who traditionally loves his indie films, who loves his art films, who loves his international films, so this is like the perfect perfect movie for him. You know, he said, quote, Adam Driver is a deranged force of nature, quote, Carax's enigmatic storytelling will take your breath away, and he seems to be much more overly positive, right, with this big cinematic opera, whereas now Ann Thompson, his co-host on Screen Talk, she is like, Annette is no crowd pleaser. Most people love it or hate it. I'm sure she's sitting next to Eric, and they're having semantic arguments about the what they're going to say in the podcast now. So I can't wait to hear that episode, but it's, there in itself is the polarizing reviews.
As two men who make a living doing the contentious podcast shtick multiple times a week, yes.
I'm definitely Eric Cohn. You're definitely Ann in this relationship. Yeah. I don't know. That's the first time
That's probably accurate, yeah. Not in so much in terms of intelligence or tact or literally anything else other than she happens to be down on this one property, yeah.
That's right. But Brian Formo's there too, Mike, from Fandango.
His letterbox review reads, quote, some personal misgivings and some undeniable third act messiness aside, and that is completely unlike anything you've ever seen. I will buy that for $1. Carax always takes the biggest swing, and he has a few massive hits here, even if he swings at every ball. I really like that review, regardless.
That's a cool review. Yeah. So if we're going to get an overlong movie, something that sweeps us away for stretches and scenes,
and hey,
that
man,
goes
like
for
that's
it.
You and I were talking earlier today, like, just keep me hooked. I don't care how ridiculous it gets, but if I get bored during your 2-hour movie, man, it's a death sentence for me, for my watching.
Yeah, truth. I think that's been the watch at home plague, right? I mean, for any movie, and it's much less the case, I would say, in a theater when you're where it's the forced immersion. Yeah. But that's where your Peter Griffin voice comes in as well. Anyway, we got some first reactions today for Ahed's Knee. This is Nadav Lapid. It's apparently a very intense story. This is the director of The Kindergarten Teacher and Synonyms. So I was kind of looking at that. Maybe it's an best international film contender. I don't know. It seems like the first impressions are a bit polarized, at least at first blush. We'll see. But Michael Val was an immediate darling of the festival. This, of course, the documentary about Val Kilmer.
Yeah, it got a great first screening reception, and my God, why wouldn't it when you look at the trailer? Strong early reviews. Scott Feinberg called it, quote, very powerful and moving. Jason Gorber said it was, quote, blockbuster documentary. Alex Billington said it was a full of love film, obviously. And we could talk about the trailer that was released, go right into this. But when you see just this trailer, my heart was in my throat watching this. I did not realize that Mr. Kilmer was as badly wounded as he was until we started previewing this doc, and now seeing it, I mean, it's as heartbreaking as anything else.
Yeah, quit smoking, everybody, please. No kidding. Yeah, he's got throat cancer. He can't speak anymore other than with a device. So his son, who does speak like him, and it does put you through a loop if you've grown up on Val Kilmer movies like we have. You hear him and his son's voice, but the movie and the trailer are narrated by his son. This is A24. This is going to Amazon Prime Val for July 23rd or 23rd in theaters, August 6th on Prime there. So I thought that this was really cool and a project certainly worth compiling when you think about the fact that he was addicted to home videos, Val Kilmer, his whole career, and you have footage from him on every movie set, from him with all his big Hollywood friends, from him, at every stage of his career. So it's not just this puff piece. This is going to be Val Kilmer acknowledging how much trouble he was on certain sets that we've covered, film sets from hell, like the Island of Dr. Moreau. I mean, there's going to be a story about him and Marlon Brando in that movie with David Thewlis involved. So I can't wait to see this. This is going to be late July, early August for us.
Yeah, if you take the human interest and the empathy and the sickness part out of it, everyone in this space is just suckers for behind the scenes Hollywood stuff anyway. So that alone, I think you'd have a hit on your hands. And I, like you, am very curious to, as I always am, to see that type of stuff play out in real life. And then you add Val's sickness and his condition into it, and it tears at your heartstrings. So it works on a lot of levels. I agree. I can't wait to watch it either. I wonder if this is going to be like if this is the first tip of the iceberg in terms of like this new wave of documentaries that are coming, because Salil Moon Fry did kind of a similar thing with Kid 90 on Hulu, which I watched, and it was a lot of behind the scenes on different sets with, you see famous people as she's shooting this home video stuff, and it's cool and all, but we're getting to this point where we have full-fledged celebrities who never grew up without their face being on camera because of YouTube and editing videos and making them. So I wonder if this is going to be more and more of a common type of niche documentary that kind of creates its own little subgenre in the space soon.
Yeah, we'll have to ask Amanda if this one has a chance of being a hit with the kids on TikTok and people circle back to Val Kilmer's career somehow. I guess if one of his dance moves got famous, we would have a chance, or one of his songs. So didn't he have a pop song?
Yeah. Did he?
I don't know.
I feel like everybody who was famous in the late 80s, early 90s, like that was the move.
Right. But, I mean, we've been watching a ton of these documentaries, these career retrospective documentaries, these year in the life of a celebrity documentaries of late. It kind of started with the documentary boom of the last few years, Won't You Be My Neighbor, etc. And it's continuing all through this year. I've seen a bunch at the festivals already, a bunch that we reviewed with The First Step, Roadrunner. We're going to talk about a couple at the end of this episode. I've also seen a couple more. Wolf Game, the guy who did the claymation called Clay Dream. Mike, they're coming in left and right. And this one, getting the praise that it's getting and the profile it's getting, maybe this is one that actually has a chance because of its unique way that they're compiling the archival footage here, and because the footage is so exclusive,
right.
Maybe this one actually has some Oscar legs if it's such a darling.
You got to wonder, I would just think the way the story's going to tug at your heartstrings, and Val Kilmer is a longtime veteran, respected actor, that it would have a chance of being nominated. But you do have to wonder about that the documentary branch hates archival footage, notions that's been thrown around the last couple of years, how that's going to play out if there is this kind of new genre coming out where people are going to be showing their own archival footage that is exclusive and isn't well known and needs to be just, librariatized. That's not a word, but you get the idea. Yeah. I wonder how that's going to play
Librarian,
out.
I believe is the technical term. But what if it's coming from Iceman? That's the thing, documentary film branch. Like, where does your nostalgia end and begin? I don't know. Like, if the Iceman is telling his life story, maybe you throw biases aside for once.
Interesting. It's going to be. I'm very curious to see how this type of doc plays with the Academy.
They gave it to an octopus last year.
Yeah, right.
They gave it to an archival footage.
But that's what they do. If they're going to do archival footage, it's going to be because there's a fucking octopus we fell in love with. Like, we have no idea what this branch is thinking.
My mother couldn't stop talking to me about My Octopus Teacher, by the way. She loved it. So that one had some power. But Michael, to finish out the Cannes stories here, we had the Cannes Market have a major sale that is just an eye-popping headline here.
The Greenland sequel. called Migration sells to STX for $75 million plus at the virtual market. First of all, what a country. Second of all, I read about this deal. I don't really understand it because STX had the distribution rights for the first one, so they could have matched up to whatever they wanted. They had the right of first refusal, I guess, for any kind of sequel. So I don't think it's that big of a surprise. I think the only surprise is that the number is so high. Like, would you have paid $75 million to acquire the rights to a Greenland sequel?
It's encouraging, though, right? It's encouraging in the fact that Greenland was kind of a movie that was a bright spot kind of during the pandemic. Everybody was talking about it last year. And then, STX, the fact that they have money to burn is a great sign.
Yeah, that's one of the things I picked up on, too. The fact that they can spend $75 million comfortably. And it's tough to see how Greenland did box office-wise because it opened in a pandemic. This is cool for studios. It seems like it's going to be something that goes to theaters because STX doesn't have a streaming service. So, all right, we got more theater news coming up, too, in box office news, and reason for, I guess, optimism.
We hope. We're trying. We're stretching for it, but that's. I mean, look. We said the industry's healthy because of the numbers flying around, and the can market is definitely an indicator of that. And again, the industry's healthy because the money is there. The problem is the money is going more towards streaming and at-home stuff than in movie theaters. But you're right. We're going to talk about some movie theater optimism.
If I paid you $75 million, would you go see the Greenland sequel?
Neither of us have watched the Greenland original yet.
No,
deliberately.
We have not.
We probably should. I keep hearing it's fun.
Stop it! Don't play nice. No,
it's on HBO Max. No, we haven't. You couldn't pay us to see it. We haven't watched it yet. Anyway, we're trying to be nice. We like STX.
Yes,
though,
we certainly do.
But Florian Zeller's new stage play, The Son, which is of course a follow up to his The Father. And The Son will be starring Hugh Jackman, Vanessa Kirby, and Laura Dern. Michael just got picked up by Sony Pictures Classics this morning at the Cannes Film Market as well. So this is not going to be an Oscars 2021-22 title, I don't think, unless they're really fast with production because it hasn't even shot yet. But yeah, Florian Zeller is selling things as well.
And why not? After the success of The Father, and that was kind of one of the gems of last year, is something that picked up steam as the year went on, parlayed itself into a couple Oscar nominations. There are more than a couple, I should say. But yeah, Hugh Jackman, Vanessa Kirby, Laura Dern. I mean, this is certainly screams something that would be Academy friendly. If it's going to stay in that cinematic universe, that'll be interesting to see too, if that has any ties to the first one. I would imagine it would, but we'll see how it plays out. But those are four big names that, especially lately, have great Oscars affiliation. So you can't not be excited about that one, I think.
And speaking of Florian Zeller stories, he was one of the 395 invitees to the new Academy, Mike. And this is another big class. I don't think we're going to see a class this big for a while for reasons we've discussed here. But a lot of the nominees and a lot of the Oscar winners from last year are in this class. I got a list of names here that you can, go look up yourselves, but up and comers as well, like Jonathan Majors and Aiza Gonzalez and longtime stalwarts and Oscar snubs like Clark Peters and of course Downton Abbey's Hugh Donneville and
of course,
what's a new Academy without Janet Jackson? So a lot of big names from Stephen Root to Nathan Lane to Craig Brewer and a lot of new Academy members to be proud of, I would say.
How the hell did it take Janet Jackson this long to be invited by the Academy? That was my biggest takeaway. Like, I'm going to get into more stats, but like, it's 2021. She's literally an Oscar nominee. She's an actress and a singer who's been featured on multiple movie soundtracks.
Were they going to give her an invite, and then Justin Timberlake, had the wardrobe malfunction thing?
Christ almighty. It could be. That makes a lot of sense for that to be the case. And that's telling about a couple things, I think. But all right, let's concentrate more so on the class itself. Here's some stats and the way it breaks down. According to IndieWire, the new class is 46% women, 39% from underrepresented ethnic/racial communities, and 53 international members from 49 countries outside of the U.S. We have 89 Oscar noms. We have 25 Oscar winners in this new class. And also, just as an aside, something I don't think we've concentrated on or really talked about much here, there were 8 invitees who received invitations from multiple Academy branches, and it's up to the individual themselves as to what branch they want to enroll in, which also means that there's no double dipping in terms of anyone in the Academy representing multiple branches, which I don't know if you knew that. I think that's something like I knew, but I was never confirmed, and now I have it confirmed for myself.
Oh, cool. I didn't even think about it ever once in my life. But
There you go.
now it makes sense. It's sensible. But, I mean, the fact is, to remind our fans out there, they vote on the nominees by branch, right? And they vote the short lists by branch. We went over the kind of the new rules and the expanded short lists on the last ORC there. And then everybody votes for everything in terms of voting for the winner.
Right.
So it makes some sense that the new members will make a choice in terms of which branch they're in. Obviously, they vote for their board of governors that way too, and then they'll vote for everything at the end of the day, and they'll just recognize a short film about a California highway and pick that one.
As long as they're all on the same page. Again, I got to commend the Academy. 46% of the new class is women. Should be closer to 50, but whatever. 39% from underrepresented ethnic and racial community. These are every number the Academy has spit out has felt less like quota filling to me and more like what everything should feel like, and just like, diversity and equality.
It's getting closer and closer to equality, I
Right.
would say.
Right.
Finally, thank
Exactly.
God. And they had to make it happen and force it to happen, but we're glad it is finally happening. Mike, this story I didn't know if we were going to talk about, but you seem to have some pizzazz here written down. We'll see where you
I
land.
am
But Gabrielle
nothing but
Carteris.
pizzazz. Yeah, go ahead.
Gabrielle Carteris, I believe her name
Sure.
is. She's not seeking re-election at SAG-AFTRA as their president. She had the huge election battle against Matthew Modine, and you and I did not really get into this too much. We covered it maybe in one episode, but she is kind of stepping down, and Fran Drescher is potentially going to succeed her, at least run on her ticket, I guess. So she just announced that she will, in fact, run. Fran Drescher of course, The Nanny, and I believe one movie that I kind of liked when I was a kid. No, my family, we were big fans of Fran Drescher.
You like The Beautician and the Beast? Is that
The
what you're-
Beautician and the Beast, thank you.
So yeah,
Guilty
the
pleasure.
reason I wrote so much for this and like followed up on it is because I remember for some reason vividly a couple years ago talking about this story in the one episode, and I remember vividly talking about Matthew Modine running for SAG-AFTRA president from the Membership First Party on the platform of opposing cuts to health plans for those in the SAG union and reforming pensions for retired actors. And now, 2 or 3 years later, we have Matthew Modine running for president of SAG-AFTRA from the Membership First Party on the platform of opposing cuts to health plans for those in SAG union and reforming pensions for retired. It's the exact same platform, so time is a flat circle, I guess is my point, and McConaughey was right in True Detective Season 1.
And Matthew Modine was in a documentary recently that was pretty good in Operation Varsity Blues, by the way. on
Operation
Netflix.
Varsity Blues?
Yeah, none of what you said meant anything to me.
Okay, good.
So hold on. Is he is for cuts for, he's against cuts to health plans, so that's good.
Well,
And he's
yeah, it's him. There's, from what I could tell about the SAG-AFTRA and the competing for the presidency seat between Modine and now Fran Drescher, is that there's two main competing parties. There's Membership First, who seem to be concentrated on a more what you would call a liberal-leaning prism, better health care for all members, versus Fran Drescher and Gabrielle Carteris, who are representing the Unite for Strength, which is the party that represents cuts to current health care plans in terms of, for reasons of getting the actors more money at the end of the day, essentially. Patting their wallets more. So, and just like in the United States, those are two competing ideologies, and their members are going to go over who they want to win. Now, this is all overly simplistic, and I realize that, but it's foolish to think, and this is why I do think it's important we talk about the business and the politicking of Hollywood once in a while, at least. These relationships and these votes and the intermingling of the ideals that go into these types of unions, they really do run Hollywood to an extent. I mean, the behind-the-scenes dealing and politicking is how a lot of these things get done at the end of the day, and we end up commenting on them whether we even are cognizant of that or not. So, again, it's just, for me, and I think for some people out there who do follow this stuff as religiously as we do, you got to keep yourself abreast of what's going on behind the scenes, even if it is something as relatively enthusiastic as member voting for the SAG-AFTRA union.
We'll have to ask SAG members down the line what they think of all this, or never, ever,
whichever comes first
again, and never cover this again, despite your pizzazz in those takes. Michael, we have a box office update from July, the July 4th weekend there, and we got some optimism, I would say, because overall, couple firsts in the pandemic era, first time since the pandemic started. The top 10 films all grossed over $1 million each. I think one of the bigger grosses overall, where over the 4 days, all the films grossed over $101 million total. And yeah, we got some movies that are propping it up, like F9: The Fast Saga, which is 4-day, almost $33 million. That's crossed 126 domestically, $500 million worldwide. Boss Baby Family Business did well despite also being on Peacock, Mike, which apparently is another streaming service that I don't know if you've watched it yet, but anyway, 4 days, $23 million for Boss Baby Family Business. The Forever Purge did $16 million in a 4-day, and Zola did $2.5 million in a limited release in its total run up. I think like 6 or 7 days that was. So the box office overall was very strong for July 4th,
and hopefully the good times will keep on coming, because Black Widow is coming out tonight as you are hearing this, dear listener. And if you're not watching it for $30 or so and you plan on watching it, that means you're going to go to a theater to watch it. And right now, the current projections for Black Widow's opening it's projected to run for between 80 and 110 million on its opening weekend at the box office. Fast 9 currently has the high watermark on the year, about a $70 million opening domestically. So anything in that range for Black Widow of 80 to 110 would make it the biggest theatrical opening of 2021. And that range, 80 to 110, would be a huge win, I think, for theaters as well. I hope it's a sign of people returning to the theaters, and it's not that this is what tentpole numbers are going to be. Because if this is a sign of improving strength and people coming back to movies for big blockbusters, then okay, the $80 to $110 million domestic openings for the latest MCU installment of a standalone movie, that's something that you can build on. If this is as good as it gets, I think that's problematic. But I don't know how you feel about that number and that range, Michael.
I am thrilled with that projection, because that means that it's going to achieve as much along with the day and date at home. I mean, basically competing against itself, because you can buy Black Widow for $30 at home. So how many people are going to buy it for $30 at home along with their Disney Plus subscription there, and how many people are going to go to the movies? And right now, I mean, I'll be honest, like the AMC tickets, they're low. Like you can get in for like $8, $9. It's
really
fairly cheap. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm going, I'm going to matinee. I guess that's the matinee price that I'm remembering. But I did that for Fast 9. I saw it like 3 o'clock on a Saturday or whatever I did. And yeah, I mean, I think it makes some financial sense. I mean, you can go and have a day out at the movies right now if you can safely do that. So that's something that people are actually reckoning with. So the fact that they're going to make that much money by projections, we've seen these projections be spot on lately. So yeah, I think the guys are working overtime. They've finally got projections to project again, and they're doing a great job. Tom Bergerman, etc. IndieWire that we cover, they're doing an awesome job. Now, this is optimistic. And there's a lot of reasons to be happy, and there's also the fact that the European box office kind of had a major rebound over the last 2 weeks, and that's in some markets without F9. But France, Britain, Germany, Spain, all COVID-era highs for the last weekend's box office, and they are also speaking about it in terms of the fact that F9 is going to be followed up by Black Widow in many ways. So this is what we talked about. Remember when Tenet and Mulan were apparently going to jockey for release date real estate, Mike, back during the pandemic a few times, because we were wondering if the box office could rebound with back-to-back theatrical titles. Well, now we finally seem to have that.
And the overseas market is super important. I mean, that $75 million bid that STX had for the Greenland sequel, $50 million of that is earmarked for, I think, the international plays, because Greenland was number one in however many international markets. I think it was like over 20 international markets. So studios are very, very cognizant of that. And yeah, you have a Marvel movie, you want it to hit $1 billion theatrically.
Well, I didn't know if I wanted to say this part yet, but we've been known to wet blanket some things.
Yes.
And all right, let's just be honest with the people, because we did very cursory box office mojo scan as well with this segment, and we looked at the 101 that was made 4th of July weekend, this past week, and we looked at what it was in 2019, and let's be honest, 2019 was markedly better. It was 183. So that is, and that's a 3-day gross.
About a 55% rake of what it's doing. I mean, we were in the 40s, right? Now we're above 50. That's something. I'm trying so hard.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing, and hopefully Black Widow keeps some momentum going. So if you guys want to save movie theaters, please, now's the time.
Get your butts out there. Yeah, absolutely. We can move into a make the case or what we're watching type segment, Michael.
Yeah, so I don't know how you want to handle this, but we all kind of watched a few movies apiece over the July weekend. I watched LFG about the women's soccer team and all their activism and all, their fight for equal pay. It's a great documentary on HBO Max. I watched Sisters on Track, which is about a pair of sisters who are in 7th and 8th grade, Mike, running varsity times. And I know this because I'm a track coach, so I'm in awe of their talent, but I'm in awe of that story. God bless Tyler Perry. That's on Netflix. Both, recommendations. I also saw The Courier with Benedict Cumberbatch. He's really good. And Dream Horse for Best Picture.
You're
Start
disgusting.
the campaign right now. Toni Collette.
I've never been more offended in my life. This is where our friendship ends. Is that movie seriously good, or is it okay? And you're like, I'm going to make this great because I get joy out of needling my co-host.
That's right.
Okay, good.
Yeah. No, it was fun. It was a fun watch. I watched it.
You and
with
Toni
family.
Collette both have stabbed me in the back over this movie. I just want you both to know that.
But you also watched a handful of films over the weekend, so I'm eager to hear what
I
you
was
think.
very late to A Quiet Place 2, but I finally got to that in theaters, and I have questions.
So are you down on the movie overall? Because your texts were kind of downers.
I got bored. I've gotten bored on a lot of movies, and that's going to be kind of a running theme of these.
In the theater?
Yeah, I did. Well, I mean, and that's probably the upside of the theaters that I
Did
had to
somebody
stick with.
shush you, and you just wanted to talk out loud the whole time?
No, nobody shushed me. But the last 40 minutes were really good. I didn't think it. Again, it's my expectations, my own fault. I went to see it way too late, and I had heard all the hype. I wonder, though, sincerely, how much of everyone's exuberance for that movie was driven by the fact that it was the first big time they went back to a theater. You know what I mean?
So you're a horror movie connoisseur, though. Did it deliver in that regard, or you were more questions about the whole
think
world
it's a
building?
horror movie, to be honest with you. I think it's just like kind of
Action?
maybe an action drama, maybe a drama thriller. I really don't think it's that scary of a movie at all. And it's fine. I mean, it's a good watch. You're going to be okay if you watch it. I think I gave it like a B grade, a low B, like an 83, 84. So it's definitely passable, but I was just, when I heard it lived up to the the feeling of the first movie, I remember vividly leaving the first movie, that theater, thinking, wow, I had just seen something special. And this one, I felt like I had just seen a second piece of a Netflix miniseries.
I see. So if they turned it into a miniseries, would Scoot McNairy be the protagonist and therefore the star of his own Paramount Plus Harborside Quiet Place?
What's the name of the bad guy from Don't Breathe 2? What are all these great horror movie names that we're on a roll with lately? Norman.
That's right.
Nordstrom.
Norman Nordstrom. Yeah, he's probably got a comic book name himself. Yeah.
I watched Fear Street, the first installment in 1994. I tweeted about this and said, as soon as I heard the Nine Inch Nails song, that was all I need. You hear that in the first opening scene. This is.
Should we have just listened to the Spotify playlist for that?
Oh
movie
yeah.
and not watched
The
movie?
playlist blows the movie out of the water. Playlist.
Because I don't even get, I watched it too. I don't even get why they play the song so fast. I want more. I want this miniseries to just be the songs.
I think they do that. And this is my interpretation, but I think they do that to kind of poke fun at the way those types of songs were used in the 90s shows and 90s slashers and stuff like that. I think it's very deliberate that they play one right on top of the other like that.
Well, you're pooping on my childhood, so there's that.
I mean,
she's born in 1982, the director, so I don't know what she's all high and mighty about. No, I thought it was fun. I thought conceptually, I thought couple of the sequences they really nailed. Like the last 20 minutes, like that's huge, Mike, in any movie series, especially when they're coming out one week after another. 78's this week, and then 1666. I can't believe we're going that far back. But Mike, I want to watch the next movie, don't you?
Yeah, and I'm definitely going to. I wonder if we're getting a little past the tipping point here with this whole, like, oh, we're in on the joke, aren't you? As far as horror movies go. Like, relax. Not everything needs to be. I feel like I'm waiting for these characters to Deadpool me the whole time and just speak right to the camera and break the fourth wall. Like, I get it. I just, concentrate on the scares. But no, you started off positively, and that's generally my feeling about it. Like, I wasn't crazy about the movie itself. I was more excited about parts and pieces of it and concepts and ideas having to do with it. But yeah, I'm definitely going to watch the second one.
Maybe it's a watch-at-home blues for me, too, because, like, the first...
I did get bored halfway through.
After the first sequence, which I liked, then there's, like, the whole middle of it, I could care less, and then I perked up the last half hour.
Something that did not bore me and was probably my favorite watch of the week and was something you were very high on yourself and your expectations. I wasn't disappointed. I don't have to yell at you. Werewolves Within, Josh Rubin's movie that was available through IFC Midnight on demand on VOD there. Paid $8. It's a 90-minute watch. It's a fun kind of whodunit / horror mystery. I don't think the twist is all that shocking. It was kind of, I don't know if it was obvious, but like he did a good job of knocking down the pins around it and getting rid of the red herrings. It was fun. It was I would watch that movie again before I watch A Quiet Place 3, I think.
I'm thrilled. I've got a Cheshire Cat grin right now. I'm thrilled that you like the Sam Richardson film that I was, just happy over at the film festival at Tribeca there. And you're a big fan of the director,
yes,
of course, Scare
absolutely.
Me, and now Werewolves Within. So yeah, that was a cool movie, and I'm glad that one hit you. I'm glad you didn't have such high expectations that I ruined the movie for.
Hey, let's talk about something I had low expectations for, and it still didn't meet them.
No sudden move from Steven Soderbergh could have been Dad Movie Paradise, Mike. I mean, just from the trailer, just from the cast, Benicio del Toro, Don Cheadle, you get some cameos, you get some side characters. Brendan Fraser makes his return to cinema.
Who looks like
I thought
me
he was
now.
very good.
I mean, no hate, but Brendan Fraser and I are twins basically at this point.
He's ready for his Darren Aronofsky film, unfortunately. And again, the guy's going through a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not, no hate or judgment on my end. I saw him and I'm like, he looks like me. That's me in a trench coat and top hat right now.
He's got largesse. He's got gravitas.
Yes, exactly.
As do all three of us right now. Michael, this movie to me was like endlessly disappointing at almost every turn, and I could just hear all our listeners getting angry with us who actually may have liked moments of this movie after F9.
I don't care. I don't care. I'm so
that's the
done
thing,
looking forward to Soderbergh stuff. I'm done with
this is all about expectations, isn't it? Like we
No,
it's
not. It's absolutely not. Because I struggled for 2 hours to hit play on this thing because I just knew I was going to not like it. And I was like, don't do that. I wanted to skip it. But I was like, my expectations couldn't have been lower, Mike. Like, wow. Soderbergh could have done anything here. But it's just, I didn't care about any of these characters. I kind of cared about Don Cheadle at the very end. But I got so bored like 40 minutes through. And I just did not give a shit about what was going on.
When you triple cross the double cross,
yes,
after you set up an action movie sequence that doesn't happen, or that just is disappointing again, like everything there should have been a whoopee cushion effect after every sequence here. Like none of them paid off.
Nothing did.
Well, yeah, that's the problem, and you're right. You don't get to know any characters because they're all elusive. And
did the twist at the end was that a twist for twist's sake?
Well, that's the thing, right? That's the thing. It's just like we just want to stay a step ahead of the audience that we're not going to honor what's come before.
Look, it's not... I have to fight Steven Soderbergh. I have to. Me and him, there's too much tension between us right now that it can only end one way. And so
it's upsetting because he does stuff we like.
Exactly. It's not just stuff we like. It's like Unsane is really good, like really, really good, and really above
Awesome.
average. But
And he innovates. He takes risks.
the 4 projects around Unsane right now are just not even like they're not even passable to me. Like I think I gave No Sudden Move a D+.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. HBO Max had the premiere solely on HBO Max. I don't think it's going to be Oscars eligible regardless. At best, it'll be Emmy eligible, I believe, unless it qualified somehow, and I don't know. Maybe it did. Maybe it originally had plans.
I'll take 2 hours of Adam Driver singing while he's by a vagina than I will 2 hours of Soderbergh's next. I'm really. This comes from a place from frustration because I love Steven Soderbergh's work and I love film and we're all watching a bunch of stuff and it's this big return to movies and I'm so fucking angry that he let me down again after what he did with the Oscars just now.
I was going to talk about the cinematography, but I can't transition to what you said to fisheye lenses right now, can I? Just leave it in, whatever. But this movie was aggravating, and I don't know. I mean, again,
he's on a streak for you too, with Laura Dern dressing as Bjork in that last movie you saw of his.
That's right. I didn't like his last movie. I didn't like the awkward ending of a photo of Anthony Hopkins. It didn't work for me.
3:00 on the playground by the bleachers. Me and Steven Soderbergh.
I would love to bet on you, my friend, but I don't.
He just kicks my ass. He shows up and just wipes.
He's been waiting his whole life to kick a critic's ass. You're dead.
It's the scene out of The Naked Gun where he's like, I'm going to show this guy a lesson. Everyone just sees these big reaction shots and he turned back and the Naked Gun captain's gotten the shit beat out of him by the robber.
It's like a UFC fight, but there's no referee to stop it.
Stop it. He's already dead. Yeah. All right. Mike, let's transition to some recommendations. You've done another deep dive into the documentary feature category already this year. My condolences to your sanity. But let's talk about the AFI docs, Mike.
Yeah, 3 recommendations that are also serious contenders, I hope, for documentary feature and that Oscar. And then 3 honorable mentions who I wouldn't be shocked at all if they contended as well. So I'm going to talk about 6 movies today. I saw a bunch more. And I'll be honest, I didn't really see a bad movie at AFI Docs.
That's awesome.
I crammed in 11 over the weekend. I didn't do the whole festival because we were so busy at the end of Tribeca and recording and life and whatnot. So I kind of crammed it in to the very end of the festival. But I'm glad because I watched a lot of good movies.
All right, let's start with one of the big hits, something you really, really like, The Neutral Ground from The Daily Show's C.J. Hunt. Here's its plot premise. Comedy documentary politics. In December 2015, the New Orleans City Council voted to remove 4 Confederate monuments from public grounds. A forceful group of critics protested the decision, and fearing retaliation, no crew would agree to remove the statues.
So, tonal masterpiece, I would say, in terms of documentary filmmaking, because this guy attacks like one of the most serious subjects in the news today, and he's on the ground at some of the landmark, battlegrounds of the conflict, Charlottesville, etc., Mike, and this movie is also funny when you would least expect to get a belly laugh because this is the Daily Show's C.J. Hunt, and only he's able to make you laugh during such serious commentary. So this is a B+ grade for me all day. The Neutral Ground is something you guys should really seek out, and yeah, it's going to handle the politics with a light touch at times and with some intensity when it needs to. So I was just really thrilled by this coverage, and it definitely educates you too. So I give this documentary a lot of credit. The Neutral Ground.
I don't know who hires the comedians at the Daily Show, but how they've been able to strike that tenor for like how serious the coverages of the stuff that they actually do cover for 20 years now is something incredible. So that's great to hear.
That's the thing. You can't strike this tone with most documentaries. I've just seen it fall so flat so often, and this guy nails it. I mean, it felt like at times like a Conan sketch, and at other times, just a hard-hitting piece of journalism. I'm thrilled with The Neutral Ground.
All right, good to know. So we're off to a hot start. Your second recommendation after The Neutral Ground is Storm Lake. It's about the Pulitzer Prize-winning Cullen family of the Storm Lake Times in a small town in Iowa.
Yeah, and Storm Lake won the audience award at AFI Docs for a reason, because this is a a beautiful portrait of a family, a journalism family, and it's the father and the son and the wife and the brother-in-law who's working for free now and not even taking a salary because he's retired. And I mean, they're fighting the rise of partisan, politics with just good community, news, and they're winning over a predominantly Republican town with their service to the community day in, day out. And it's amazing to watch this happen and to watch bridges being made during such a rough climate. And then the fact that we get into the COVID-19 crisis at the end and they're still making it work, it's something else. And you got big corporate politics as well here with their Tyson pork plant that runs the town kind of thing in the county. This was just an absolutely fascinating study of all the mechanisms of running a newspaper, a local newspaper during these times, trying to just, sell ads, to covering this story and that, to covering the caucuses, the Iowa caucuses, the Democratic caucuses, and having all of the major presidential candidates coming through, which was, kind of the centerpiece of the film. So Storm Lake, definitely seek it out, be all day. I could see something like this contending.
A fascinating story. I mean, I know nothing about this movie other than just hearing you talk about it now, but that's got to seem like something that would just inherently be cinematic if you have a newspaper who's actually trying to stay objective like that in a small town and struggling just to survive.
Yeah, they're on the ground enough watching these guys cover these stories. So that's the key. It's not just talking heads. Well, this is what being a local newsman's all about, and this is why I look like Mark Twain to this day, and he does. But no, it's a really engaged documentary because they're following around literally every step of the way to their brainstorming of, hey, do we do a podcast? Hey, do we do this? How do we get more readers? How do we keep these readers? It's really an intensive look at the newspaper.
All right, and the third recommendation of yours for an Oscar-contending documentary feature is Pray Away. It's another Ryan Murphy production that is also headed to Netflix. Pray Away is about the founders and public leaders of Exodus, a Pray the Gay Away movement started in the 1990s. Oh boy.
So we have seen narrative feature films, Boy Erased, The Miseducation of Cameron Post. We've reviewed those on this show in previous MMO weeklies and Oscar race checkpoints and Oscar seasons, Mike. Lucas Hedges, Russell Crowe, Nicole Kidman, they were Oscar candidates from Boy Erased. And now we get the deep dive into the lives of these public leaders, basically the voices of Exodus, this organization. And it is... I grew up in the church, and you always hear the story of Apostle Paul, right? And Apostle Paul was hunting down Christians before he became a leader in that underground movement himself. And that's what this felt like to me. This is the LGBTQ plus community in many forgiving ways, giving a microphone to all of these people who, to a person, want to be forgiven for their... how they've misguided and how they led astray many people in that community and brainwashed them and were brainwashed themselves and their transformations. And there's also portrayals of people who are still in Exodus who are not reforming or not gone away from that. So it's an absolutely heart-wrenching doc that covers it from the more of a PR side than necessarily going in depth on the ground behind the curtain kind of thing. It's not that at all. I mean, they talk about it in a kind of a similar way that the Scientology documentary talked about. Remember that one that won an Oscar a couple years back? I am fascinated by this because I grew up in the church and really never knew this existed.
Yeah.
So this is certainly some religious baggage for me to find out about this years later, even though you obviously we've been hearing stories about this over the last 5-10 years. So for Ryan Murphy to use his platform and to use his production deal with Netflix to make a movie this influential and to hopefully get the word out to kids who wound up hurting and to adults who've been, just affected by this so much, Mike, over the decades. I can't believe how terrible that epidemic was back, on the heels of AIDS. that we never even knew about.
Yeah.
We never even knew about how many thousands of people
Jesus.
were being forced and manipulated in this regard, and it was an epidemic in its own right. So, I got a lot of forgiveness in my heart for the Christian community and how, they've done so much good for the world. Never mind the all different communities in our country, but this was an evil, and it's just so clear to me after a documentary like this, and thanks to Ryan Murphy, thanks to Netflix for covering it, and it couldn't have been easy. Could not have been easy because they really, they attacked both sides of it to almost to a fault, I would say. I almost wanted a more biased documentary. I give them a lot of credit, and I do think this could contend at the end of the day. Netflix is kind of waiting and seeing, I think, in terms of their release date. I did not find one, so maybe this is going to play fall film festivals. Maybe this is going to release during Oscar time, and it could certainly contend.
Hopefully it's a way to heal. It's going to help with the healing with some of the victims that have been put through that awfulness. But speaking about it from an Oscars lens, so the three documentaries you can see as Academy appealing Oscar contenders, you have Pray Away, Storm Lake, and The Neutral Ground. Which of those three do you think speaks most to the Academy or the documentary branch as you know it? If you know it. If anyone can know it.
Well, just in terms of pure filmmaking, something like Storm Lake seems like an American Factory style documentary.
Sure.
So I could see that being, at least something that has precedent, but they kind of broke the mold last year with My Octopus
Right.
Teacher, so I'm lost. I'm totally lost. Like, I think
That's the
in my
correct
opinion,
answer.
yeah, the Lost Leonardo, and now I forget the name. I think it's the Lost Leonardo, like Sony Pictures Classics.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a nominee for a documentary, but is it just a hit? Are they going to start nominating the big hit documentaries out of the quote unquote blockbuster docs like Val?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know yet. This is one of the more elusive, film branches to predict. So, yeah, that's why I'm loving these documentary film festivals, and I got a bunch of good ones so far. I've seen over 40 so from this year alone, Mike. So this is a cool segment for me, and I got like 3 more recommendations, even if they're not going to contend. I don't know. I just like these 3 movies here, starting with Luchadoras, about Mexican lucha libre women in wrestling. But it's more the story of these 3 women's, their lives, their survival from domestic violence. They're trying to make it with factory jobs, and who's separated from their children in America, and the immigration issues there. So this is stories that desperately need to be told, and the physical empowerment that these women get from their wrestling lives. I think you would like this one a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like something that's right up my alley, certainly with the pro wrestling slant on it. But good God, the human interest part of that is heart-wrenching.
Well, that's where you never know. I mean, maybe it could have an impact on our Academy. It's well made. It's very stylistic. So the style's got to land on them, and that's probably where it falls a little bit, I would say. I don't know if the style worked on me, because they got all these surrealistic shots mixed into, obviously, all the realism. So I don't know if that works. The one and only Dick Gregory, this is about the legendary comedian, civil rights activist, health advocate later in his life. This is headed to Showtime, so just watch this. I can't believe this guy hasn't had 10 movies made about his life, but he's a comedian that's funny as hell, and he's also marching with Martin Luther King every month of the year back when, because he basically brought his career to a halt to be a civil rights advocate, and got arrested 100 times. And yeah, this is one of those stories about a hero that we've never really heard before.
Yeah,
so
no,
this is
nothing
another
I'm
fascinating
that
one.
familiar with.
Finally, talk about a world we never knew about. How about the comic book world of the LGBTQ plus community in the 90s and early 2000s, Mike? So this is No Straight Lines, the rise of queer comics. I never knew this story existed. I never knew how many, this was a cool story because it was like underground artists, right? Going from these do-it-yourself zines, they called, through the epidemic of AIDS, etc., through all the strife of homophobia in this country, into mainstream success in the early 2000s, but how many steps they had to go as artists, as starving artists, as people trying to work 2 and 3 jobs, to all their relationships with one another as underground artists and comic book writers and painters, etc. I'm again, another powerful story about civil rights, but also just a cool story about, the artist underground, which we always love in music documentary form, right? Or in the filmmaking, the guerrilla filmmaker story. So this is just another documentary that if you like those kind of movies, seek this one out. No Straight Line.
And there's the best of the documentary feature branch, and like the golden age of documentaries we're living in anyway, is that, all these well done movies are shining lights on these areas of little coverage, quite frankly. I mean, I know we keep saying it's stuff that we've never heard of, but we understand that, there's a huge world of it. But it's stuff, I don't know how many people know about the LGBTQ plus magazine industry or comic industry. That's wild that's out there and that people have to do that by themselves, and that was an actual thing. So, yeah, awesome. It sounds very appealing and sounds ripe and fertile for a documentary to shine some light on that. And that's the kind of stuff that the doc feature branch likes. They like the human interest, the stories of, unfortunately, strife and struggle, which are important to tell, but as the more often than not, you get a silver lining to some aspect of it, which is makes it worthwhile and heartening and endearing and hopeful.
And making them just crowd-pleasing documentary hit movies too. That's huge here. The fact that these are all very entertaining. So I'm not just recommending these saying, hey, this is a cause worth fighting for.
Right.
That's there as well. But these are addicting stories, and I think you hit it on the head. Like, this is a golden age of documentaries right now, and I'm glad that I can kind of dive into them in a way. So it's been very enriching because it's been a weird summer, and the movie industry's just starting to get back on its feet. So this is really a breath of fresh air. So again, The Neutral Ground, Storm Lake, and what was my third? Pray Away, and then Luchadoras, the one and only Dick Gregory, and No Straight Lines, The Rise of Queer Comic.
I look forward to this branch of the Academy making you lose your mind in short time and finally being
That's right. I'll have so many great movies that they could choose from, and they won't listen to me yet again.
Guys, as always, what is most important for us are your thoughts. Did you see anything at AFI DocFest? What are your thoughts on Can and the Adam Driver singing scenes that are out there, apparently, if you've seen them or if you're now looking forward to them more, less, I don't know, tell us, as well as your thoughts on anything having to do with the blockbusters that is coming out to theaters in Black Widow that we will be reviewing. You can leave us those, or as well as comments, questions, or concerns about anything else we do here in the MMO Empire on our social medias. We are Mike, and Oscar on Facebook and Instagram, at and Oscar on Twitter, Mike, and Oscar at gmail.com, and on Reddit. We're available everywhere you hear podcasts, including and especially the Apple Podcasts app. And if you're listening to us there, if you would be so kind, just leave us a 5-star review. Truly, that would make our day, and we appreciate that. Michael, what is coming next from us, and what are some words of wisdom here to end on?
Well, words of wisdom is, of course, seek out those docs, but it's also seek out our friends' coverage of some of the movies that we've been reviewing here. Fear Street 1994, of course, is a Netflix movie, and the Nomcast, Andrew Morgan's Netflix original movie podcast. He's doing an awesome job. You shouted him on Twitter. He did a fun interview. One of the stars of the film, 1994 film, Jordan D. Natali, who's also in The Irishman, and he's got some fun episodes that he's been pitching coming up. So check out his coverage at the Nomcast. Also check out and check in with everybody who's at Cannes who has come on our show before, because Scott Feinberg, Brian Formo at Fandango, Ann Thompson of IndieWire, of course, THR Scott Feinberg. Yeah, they're just fun to check in with. They're posting videos, they're posting reviews, and it's been fun reacting to the first reactions with them, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said by you, and very true. It's fun to have real festivals that are really taking place, and real reactions, and real timed standing ovations, and all that stuff.
Oscar contenders, we think, we hope to.
Hopefully, yes. So, guys, when reality sucks, you can come follow the festivals with us. We are Mike, and Oscar, trying to make award season year-round without the stuffiness. We will see you very soon.
See ya.